Hey everybody, real estate expert Jared Jones coming to you from Florida. Want to give you an update on the housing market, something recent that's coming out. Donald Trump's plan is going to affect housing. That's kind of the latest headlines. Donald Trump tax plan specifically. And so what that means is Donald Trump is actually going to raise standard deductions for single and married folks. So people in general are going to have the ability to have a higher standard deduction they can take on their taxes. Now, let me clarify this. Certain filing classes, you can go standard deductions or itemized deductions. If you're like me, you're not very familiar with tax code, and I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining this. Standard is basically a lump sum benchmark of deductions. It's basically saying that benefits me the best, so I'm not going to break out and itemize my expenses. So I'm going to take the standard, okay? Now, the reason why this matters is itemized is where people would actually itemize and bring into the equation their mortgage interest, right? Because if you're itemizing, you're using IRS approved deductions in your taxes. So I don't want to get too long in this because I want to explain how this affects the housing market and your pocketbook. But the point I'm making is if the standard goes so high that you just say, I just want to take the standard. It doesn't matter if you rent or own, you get this same lump sum write-off amount, deductible nature of deductible expenses to offset your income to lower your taxes. Point is, if the standard goes really high, the theory is you could still rent and ownership tax-wise doesn't benefit you as much. So that's where the theories are that, hey, Trump's going to affect taxes in a way that de-incentivizes home ownership from the purpose of the tax benefit of the mortgage interest, right? So that's the summary. Now, here's my view, okay? I've sold over 3,000 homes, probably more than 3,500 at this point, and 15 years of selling real estate. I have very few accounts of especially folks in this particular bracket that will affect the most, where they're worrying about a standardized deduction being their path of filing their taxes. That is never at the top of their list when they're buying a house. Their motivation for buying a house usually has to do with other things, like am I going to have security, right? Can I paint my own walls in my own home, my own things? That's a big deal for people, right? So that's always been, buying a specific type of house, having the ability to rehab a property and make it your own and remodel it, or having the ability to buy a new construction and feeling like it's fresh and new. So those are the leading reasons. People by and large, especially in this bracket, are not sitting there saying, I want to buy because it's structurally more sound for my tax returns. Okay, so just want to put that out there. National Association of Realtors has said, hey, you know what, this is going to affect, or we shouldn't de-incentivize, home ownership in any way. And I agree with that and thing, all right? So I'm not necessarily talking about whether or not this is great policy. I'm just saying, do I think the policy itself is going to have a massive difference of effect on the housing? I don't think it will, because of the nature of who this home buyer is. And additionally, I just, it's just not the motive. In Florida, for instance, in some of the areas where property taxes are super high, renting is not that inexpensive, right? So, it's not like, I can go and rent and save a ton of money. And taxes are now going to be okay if I rent. My taxes are good. I can rent and make this by choice. I mean, if you're talking about reasonable cost, renting versus home ownership, at least in Florida, renting is really expensive and not competitive, and that's why people do buy. And that's where I think people live more than tax benefits. Is think about that. Tax benefits aside, if my month-to-month cash flow is affected by renting, then why wouldn't I own, right? And that's something that you should look at in combination with all these other things that you're weighing out when you want to buy a home. All right, so that's my update on that. Hope you're doing well. Listen, if you like these kinds of updates, subscribe. I'm going to be more committed to providing them. And thumbs up if you like the video. Give me your comments or questions. Love to hear it. We'll talk to you real soon.